Fat Guys at the Movies featuring Pokemon.
What's up, guys? We just saw it and Chapter 2, and I'll let you guys go first because I have thoughts.
My biggest complaint from this one and the first one is the fact that they decided to have to modernize it. I think they could have kept it back in the 50s, but that being my biggest gripe, I thought this part actually was better than the first one. I guess I can't really explain why, but I think I liked it a little bit more than the first one.
Okay.
I think I'd go with that the first one was better, and you could see that the primary focus was to kind of flash back to the kids, to bring back that heart that they built in the first one.
Right.
And then they kind of like transitioned into that going into where they're at now.
Right. Alright, so here's my thoughts. So I liked it, but then I didn't like it. And the reason why I didn't like it is because I feel like they could have done this one first. And they didn't have to do the other one. Because if you've ever read the book...
I've read it twice.
This is how the book goes. The book actually takes place... It's one of those stories where
it goes back
and
forth.
You have like the kids and what's going on with the kids, then it jumps forward to the future. So there's a lot of... It's a really hard read if you're not used to reading those kind of jumping around books. It's not like, the first half...
It's a long book.
It's a long book. It's not like one of those books where like half the book is all their kids and then the next chapter is like 27 years later. The book literally takes place between the span of 27 years. So it's confusing. There's a lot of content in it. A lot of content that they're not going to get.
No.
This movie did a really good job of doing that. But at the same time, it kind of nullifies the first one. In a sense, I guess the first one kind of gave you more backstory and a little bit more detail into like the lives. Oh yeah, our loser club rings. I guess the first one had more Pennywise.
Yeah.
Doing stuff. This one, like, there was a lot of moments. Like, I don't want to say it took me out of the movie, but there's a lot of moments where I'm watching it. I'm like, okay, if I was an evil clown, or I'm an evil, space monster from space, which they never went into the lore really, which is in the book. But there's lore about him.
I think the reason though that they didn't show Pennywise as much is because sometimes when you overindulge it, it kind of takes that away. I feel like when Pennywise was on screen, it really had this kind of cool sense to it, and then like if he was just all throughout the movie and not these other different monsters. And also you have to realize like he is kind of like he's a shape, so he can like shift into anything that he wants to be to scare somebody or whatever they are.
He's a mimic, and he took on the presence of a clown, which people are scared of clowns.
It's easier to get kids. Like you see how he got one of the kids, in the movie, and it's in the trailer too, so it's not really like a spoiler, but you can see that like that's why he wanted to be a clown, because it's like easy to get kids to like feel bad for you, and like it's easier to just trap a kid. And I think that's probably more why he goes for kids, is because they're easier to get than like adults,
Right. I guess what really killed it for me was the ending. And we always do spoilers in our videos, so I mean, if you haven't seen it yet, you probably should stop this video and go watch them first.
It's just
I guess it prolonged too long.
Yeah.
Like I'm just watching it, like all right, like they're like he just let them come to him.
Yeah.
And it's like okay, because like he's primary about killing children.
Yeah.
And he let adults come into his lair. Yes, unless he just couldn't stop them. That's the only thing I was thinking. Like maybe he can't stop them.
He didn't fear them because because they're adults.
True.
They're not gonna. Because like you said, he feeds them fear. They weren't quite as scared. He didn't think they were.
That's true. That's true.
But also, you gotta be honest. Like, if they didn't go down there and fight him, you know what I mean? Like,
doing
that kind of has to happen,
right? Because it was in the book like that, and doing it in the street.
But he did get someone. So they didn't just leave it where everybody
actually,
survived.
you know what? It's been a long time since I've read the book. I don't remember I thought it was only the one that died. Did he die? Okay, he did die. Okay.
Yeah.
So I know the original. I know now that is a different twist. In the original, the other one, he commits suicide when they'll come back because he was scared. I don't remember them doing the whole thing where he was like, I just took myself off the board.
No,
that was added into. This was new. That's new content. So that made it better because in the book it just made him like, oh, he's a coward.
Yeah.
It just made him a coward and
Because
a wasted
in all
character.
honesty, he was because he
Well,
was,
yeah.
because he was scared when he was a kid. He didn't,
So yeah, it made it like this the parts in the book where he's a kid. It just made it pointless. It's like because you already knew about half of the book that he's gonna commit suicide and he's not gonna be there as an adult.
Yeah.
So it just made it like, okay, so he's a Zeus's character.
Yeah.
Now obviously there are things that were in the book and the adult side that was cut because it was just like it's just fucked up.
No,
Yeah.
you're
It's just real fucked
the
up.
part you're talking about is when it was kids. Had to bridge.
Oh, that was fucked up too.
No, basically when they were adults, they came out because the whole underground was sinking in, and then actually the rest of the downtown of Derry all started sinking too.
I was waiting for that to happen.
It
didn't happen.
They kind of showed something that kind of made it look like they might go that route with the adults, but
Right.
then they kind of broke out, and then he saves, our Bev saves
So
the kid.
Yeah.
So that being said, will they keep making more of these? Here's the thing. I feel like they should stop. Like
Yeah.
that should be it. There's 2 of them, but like we talked about last time, everything before it used to be trilogies. We gotta have a trilogy. Then it's like we gotta have a franchise. And when I simplify that franchise as 6 movies. But now we're in the age of cinematic universe. No, you gotta have like 12 movies all interconnected.
Well, here's
So-
the thing: a lot of Stephen King books are interconnected.
They
in one
are.
way or another.
But they can't really do.
And it's possible that they might die the way that Bev kind of thought that they would, or seeing them. Even though they stopped it, maybe she still did see the
Well, see, that's the
future.
thing is.
And
like,
then
she's seen
maybe
that.
one will survive, and they'll be like, in their 70s or whatever.
Right.
And then they'll be, they'll have to come back and like tell these kids like how to defeat it. I mean, they
Right.
could do that. Like, it would be weird if they went back and did like a prequel for the 3rd movie, but Insidious did that.
Well, see, that's the thing I was going to mention. Insidious has done it. The Conjuring movies have done it.
Yeah.
They did the Conjuring. They did
Yep.
Conjuring 2, and then the Conjuring 2 was terrible. So then they just went back and did Annabelle, and then Annabelle, they just kept going back and back and back. It's like, how many times can you tell the story? Just like Saw. I thought the first Saw was good.
Yeah.
The second one, you expand on that story. You should have stopped there. Well, there's what, 12 now? 6 of them, something
don't
like that.
know.
There's a lot of Saw movies. I just feel like that when it comes to Hollywood, when it comes to movies that are very good like that don't have a lot of content, they just seem to milk them. Just
Yeah,
like
they
Lord of the Rings. Like, I like Lord of the Rings. There's enough content to make 3 Lord of the Rings movies. There was not to get off topic, but there was not enough
for Hobbit.
for 3 Hobbit movies. There
And
really
now-
really wasn't.
And now they're moving into doing the series.
Which I'm fine with.
Yeah.
But
That's
it's
just
just-
one thing I'm worried about
Like
as
I
a
was saying,
sequel.
like
to
I was
this.
saying about how a lot of Stephen King books are interconnected by you may mention this town. Well, because in the book 2663, I think is what it is. I could be wrong. It's the one where he deals with a guy going back in time to try to stop JFK from getting assassinated. He actually ends up in Derry talking to Richie and Beverly.
I'm actually okay if they follow the Stephen King, like they make another movie, Stephen King's book, and it's that movie, but then you pull in these actors just for the cameos just because it's in the book. I'm okay with that as long as they don't start pulling a Stephen King cinematic universe.
Well, they're
as
doing
long as they don't do that.
I don't know if you guys have seen it, but they're doing Castle Rock, and that's done by J.J. Abrams, and it's like Stephen King kind of universe, so they can like pull in different things from his universe, but it's like it's like an actual like new story,
Right.
But the thing is, I think I think Stephen King's, a lot of his stuff is probably owned by different studios.
It is. That's the one thing. It's
Unless you
multiple.
got it with Warner Brothers.
Yep.
I'm not sure who did Pet Cemetery.
Yeah, and a lot of the movies are pretty miss, I think.
Most of Stephen King's movies have been pretty.
Because
pretty
one thing
mixed.
too is that they're adapting books in such a short time, so they got to figure out what they need to do to get them all into a 2-hour movie. That's why it's good that this has a part 1 and a part 2, because like you have a lot to cover,
Right, and I thought when they announced originally they were doing it, and they're doing it in 2 parts. It was originally planned that way.
Yeah.
I was like, cool, and then saw the first one. It's like, oh, it's the entire kid story. There was no adult stuff in there, and I was like, okay, so then the sequel is going to be all about the adults. but it really wasn't that way. They kind of like they did the intertwine like the book was, and I was like, so that was kind of, I wouldn't say off-putting, but it was kind of like, wait, what?
They did handle the.
I mean, it was good, but I was like, it just nullified the first one. Like if someone's never seen these films, I would say go watch it. I would say watch this one, and just skip the first one, and you could get the whole story. You could understand the message.
They do kind of retread on stuff in the first
They
one.
did.
Which I suppose is one of those things where if you kind of have to, because you know there are people out there who haven't bothered watching them.
And that's why I said too that it's good that they at least did some different things, you know, with the kids. Like when they did go to flashbacks, they didn't just like flashback something that we've already seen before.
Right, and I like how they went back and kind of, I don't, if they kind of alluded that, oh yeah, when they separated because they got in a fight, something happened to each of them.
Yeah.
That affected them, and then they have to. I like that. There's new content. One thing that you, no, it wasn't. One thing that you did mention was like the de-aging. I didn't notice it, and it did. And it wasn't until you actually said something that I was like, wait a minute, that is that kid from Stranger Things, and that is the other kid from Shazam. Wait a minute. Did they reshoot new footage, or is this old footage? No, it's new footage, so they had to de-age something.
And honestly, I get what they're going for because they're actually thinking about just doing them all in one cut, where it's like the first and the second one, like there's not a break, it's just all one movie.
Right.
So I figured that's probably why they even went the de-aging, route, is because they plan to put the movies together as one full feature.
It makes sense because you would have to do, well, even if you weren't going to do it that way, you have to do it that way because then it would look weird if you're going back and saying, okay, well, you're going to show footage of the kids when they were kids at that same time, but now they look older. Now the kid, he was this tall, now he's like this tall because he's 16 now versus being 14 at the time. That makes sense.
It's either you go with they're older and you're going back to flashbacks and you don't do the de-aging if it's that, but for me, I feel like it never really took out that that they were de-aged, but it was in some points noticeable, but like I've heard that if you didn't know that they did that it's a little bit harder. But I'm curious, like when it comes out on like DVD, is that going to be something that they may put a little bit more into like a 4K kind of rendering? Because when you see a movie here, it's not as there's some grain to like the theater, but then when you get in like a 4K crisp, feature, then like it's a little different. So I'm wondering if they will do anything to kind of touch it up a bit, but.
Yeah, probably, but
we got 3 months to wait until it comes out.
Right. So just to kind of just to wrap this up, I liked it. I mean, it's not a traditional horror film. If you're going in there expecting Pennywise to be killing everybody left and right and scaring the crap out of everybody, I mean, I like that they didn't go with the scare moments. They didn't do too many like super scare moments.
Did that kid that got killed in that mirror maze not look like the kid from Iron Man 3? Was I the only one that kind of thought that
little kid had a really he resembled Georgie, and I think that's what
that
they
was
were
the point.
intending to do.
That was the point.
He was coming back to do like a redemption story.
Yeah, that was
okay,
the point.
So I was the only one that thought he looked like Harley from.
I just thought he.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
So yeah, I liked it. I mean, I recommend it. I mean, I guess I shouldn't. I guess my expectation was a little too high for this because the first one was. I actually thought the first one was really good. Like you said, you like the first one better. I like the first one better too.
I like the first one better, but when I first seen it, I expected it to be really scary. But then I see that this is more for the story. It's not so much.
It's not like Saw
and then
or
I think
like Friday
about
13.
The classic horror movies aren't really so much scary. And nowadays you see like even when you go back to see like the original there's not really much scare there.
No, that's what I like because like right now all horror films are mostly just like
jump scares.
They're just jump scares. There's no story to them. The story is very weak. Dare I say,
that's
the
why,
Dark World. Weak.
That's why when you go back and you're like, oh, well, name one of your favorite horror movies that have come out lately. You go to things like The Conjuring because at least there's story there.
The Conjuring had a good story.
And then also you get into like Hereditary, which had story too. And then had the horror aspect. So, a lot of the horror movies now have to have the story in it plus the horror aspect of it,
Right.
Feels like.
I think like when you were saying about how Pennywise, or we were all saying that Pennywise wasn't really in the movie much, which was a good thing. I think it allowed for character development where you had the kids getting scared. We got to fight it. Now you kind of learn that the 27 years of what's kind of happened. I mean, like I said, they skipped over it bringing Beverly's husband and Bill's wife in because he brought them in and used them as
Used them as bait.
used them as bait.
Yeah,
but he
used them
actually
as
ended
bait.
up finding out that her husband was actually killed just before because it killed him because he looked in the deadlights and he died.
Yep.
But like I said, they skipped that where she just took the ring off.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, because, like, I mean, you know, and that was probably the best part of the entire movie was when they all got together and they were just kind of, oh, hey, you know, it's been 27 years. Oh, remember that? Oh, yeah, that was probably the highlight of the movie for me.
I did like how they kind of kept the fortune cookie scene kind of similar to what was in like the Tim Curry ABC miniseries, and in the books where you only had one cracked open, there was an eyeball.
It's really interesting to see those type of scenes and just to see how they do it, because you get into these like kind of cheesy, you know, nostalgic scenes, but then you're kind of like wondering like how are they going to do that so it's not comes off so cheesy. But I think the way they did it is pretty good. You know, like the heads in the fish tank singing, and like I just thought that was some
It was
cool little
good. I mean, it was solid.
and then it was awesome when the Asian chick comes in and she's like, "What the hell are y'all doing?" Like,
Right. Check, please.
You know, I do have to from the reviews that I kind of saw. I didn't actually watch any YouTube responses, but most of the things that I've heard that said Bill Hader was actually great, and he was, to me, he's shown in this movie.
Oh yeah, he stole the movie. I mean, you know.
I mean, even with his, the cheesy and one-liners like, check please, and
he has like the best arc in like from the adults, you know.
Well, it makes sense because he's a stand-up comedian.
Yeah.
So. And like I said, they didn't. Again, I thought they kind of was cheap with him. Like in the first one, what are you scared of? Well, I don't know, clowns. And like in the book, and again, like I said, going back to the miniseries, he was, he saw I was a teenage werewolf, and he was scared of the Wolfman. Much like in that one, Ben was scared of the Mummy, which is why in the first one, for chapter 1, you actually did see the mummy's face is what Ben saw.
And I like that he the biggest fear was people finding out that he was gay, you know. And I think that was a really cool art that they gave him.
It was good.
Because he went there to carve out, Rich and Eddie or whatever, you know.
Right.
And I just thought that was a good story that they put in there.
Yeah, it was a good story. I liked it. All right, Mr. J, what are you gonna give it?
Again, I enjoyed it. Like you said, if you haven't really seen the first one, you don't really have to. I mean, if you've read the book, seen the miniseries, you know what's going to happen anyway. But
right?
Yeah, I'll say, we'll Losers Club.
Yeah, Losers Club. Loser Club. 3 loser clubs. All right, guys.
He'll link Pokemons info.
Oh yeah, you'll have all your info if you want to plug it. You can go ahead and plug it.
I'd give it an 8.5 if I could rate out of 10.
Okay, that's pretty good rating. That's pretty good rating.
I'll go about an 8 or so.
Yeah.
About the same. 8 out of 10.
Plug your Instagram, your Twitter, or whatever.
Yeah, youtube.com Pokehon. So, pretty simple.
Pokehon, right?
Yeah.
It'll be linked in the description. All right, guys, this is the Armadillo. MagicPlanet.com, Mr. J, and this is 2 fat guys going to the movie with third wheel. I guess we're gonna call it third wheel.